Hello and welcome to the channel. As always, like the video, and if you enjoyed the story, leave a comment on if you would want more. This fan fiction was not created by me, but in the description there is a link to the fanfic so you can show your support to the creator and read along. Without any more delay, let's dive into the story.
Henry and Mott woke up wondering what today would bring to her. In the course of just one day, she had lost her parents, been saved by angels, given goblins to command, and was now responsible for her little sister's well-being and teaching her to grow up. She wasn't quite sure if she was ready for all of this responsibility, but she couldn't mope around and think about it. Her little sister needed her to be strong, and that was exactly what she would do. Her morning had started off like most of the others since that fateful day. She woke up, went to the storehouse to get the ingredients for breakfast, and started cooking for her, Nemu, and 20 goblins. It was quite the chore to take care of 20 goblins and Nemu, but the goblins had been very helpful in hunting food for the village. It made it so that they didn't have to worry about running out. After breakfast, she headed to the fields to get to work. The goblins had been invaluable in helping out the villagers with their work. If it wasn't for them, she was sure almost no one in the village would have had even a decent harvest this year. She noticed most of the villagers just referred to them as Mr. Goblin instead of their actual name, but supposed it wasn't exactly easy to tell all of them apart. As lunch was approaching, Henry heard a commotion coming from the village square and went to see what was going on. She hoped they weren't under attack again. She wasn't sure Lord Ainz, Lady Taylar, or Lady Albedo would be there to save them this time. She arrived in the square just in time to see Ainz, Taylar, Albedo, and someone Henry did not recognize descending from the sky. Henry was actually the second one to kneel to the supreme beings. Her little sister Nemu was the first. Nemu had not stopped talking about the two angels that had saved them since they first left. She seemed to almost revere the angels, and Henry could understand why. The power they showed when saving them was the thing of legends. When Henry raised her head, after Lord Ainz said they could, she looked upon the three of them and had her breath taken away. None of the three who had saved their village were wearing masks this time. She thought Lord Ainz was very good-looking. His black hair, red eyes, and tan skin was the last thing she expected to see after seeing him in his cloak, wielding a scythe. When she looked at Lady Taylar and Lady Albedo, she thought, that is what goddesses of beauty must look like. When she snapped out of staring at the three saviors of her village, she noticed Lady Taylar was also staring at her. She had a smile on her face as she looked at Henry and the goblins around her. She wasn't quite sure why she was smiling, but it put Henry at ease. Her smile was radiant, beautiful, and filled with hope and joy. Henry did not know why Lady Taylar was smiling at her like that, but enjoyed every minute of it. Her gaze seemed to fill Henry with determination and power. When she heard Lord Ainz say he was letting the village borrow 10 golems to rebuild and construct a wall to protect them, she wanted to jump for joy and thank him for the rest of her life. She knew golems were incredibly expensive. She wasn't quite sure how expensive, but even nobles had trouble affording just one. Here was her savior, lending them 10 like it was no big deal. When they introduced Lupus Regina Beta, Henry noticed she was also staring at her. She had the opposite reaction of Lupus Regina staring at her that she did when Lady Taylar was. She was worried when Lupus Regina gazed at her. It felt more like someone sizing her up than her caring for her. Once their saviors had left, only Lupus Regina and the golems were still standing there. Henry noticed Lupus Regina give the golem some commands and then start working her way towards her. The goblins near her tensed up when she made her way towards them, but Henry was not scared. This was someone left by the saviors of Karn village, and she knew she was here to help them. "You are Henry Amott, right?" Lupus Regina says. "Yes, I am Lady Lupus Regina Beta." Henry replies. No need for that, Henry. Just call me Lupu." "It seems Our Lady has taken a liking to you, Henry," Lupu says. "What do you mean by that, Lupu? Do you mean Lady Taylar?" Henry asks. "You are a quick one, Henry. Our Lady believes in you. I can't wait to see what you do, hee hee, Lepu replies. Henry suddenly feels a very heavy burden fall on her. How could someone so powerful believe in a simple village girl? Henry did not know the answer to this question, but would try her hardest not to disappoint her saviors. Brita was making her way to an alchemist shop to get the potion appraised the woman at the inn gave her to replace the one they broke. She hoped it was at least worth as much as the one that was broken. She had honestly never seen a red potion in her life. She wasn't sure if she just got ripped off, but one of the guild members gave her directions to the most well-known alchemist in town with the promise they would appraise it for her if she showed them the letter he sent with her. She had just arrived at the front of the store she was told to go to. She took a whiff and almost had to hold her nose. She knew alchemist shops never smelled especially pleasant, but this one was the worst she had ever smelled. As she stepped in the shop, she was greeted by a man's voice that was definitely too young to be a man. When she took in the appearance of the teenage boy, she knew this was Infiria Berar. The description given to her fit this boy perfectly. Welcome. How may I help you today, dear customer? Enfi asks her. Are you Infiria Berar? Brita asks. Yes, that is me. May I know what business you have here? He asks. Ah, yes. Hang on a sec. Brita replies. Brita retrieved the folded slip of paper the guild member had passed her and gave it to Enfi. Upon receiving the piece of paper, Infiria opened and read it. I see, so that's what's going on. Can I see the potion, please? Enfi asks. Brita took out the potion and handed it to Infiria, who brought it so close to himself that his hair covered it. The atmosphere in the shop changed instantly. Infiria swept his hair away, revealing a handsome face, which would surely break the hearts of many girls in the future. However, within that youthful face of his was a pair of steely eyes. It was hard to imagine that someone who spoke and acted like he did could have eyes like that. Those eyes sparkled with excitement. Infiria shook the potion bottle several times and nodded. He couldn't believe what he was looking at. Forgive me, it's not convenient to speak here. Could you follow me inside? He asks her. Brita agreed, and she soon arrived at a messy room in the back of the shop. Still, she thought that way because she lacked in veteran alchemist experience. On the table were round-bottomed flasks, test tubes, distillation equipment, mortars, funnels, beakers, alcohol lamps, balances, a bizarre-looking pot, and various other items. The shelves on the walls were filled with mysterious herb and mineral samples. An acrid odor hung in the air. It seemed potentially dangerous to one's body. The person who was already within the room stared at the two people who had barged in. She was a very old woman, and both her face and hands were heavily wrinkled. Her hair, which reached to her eyebrows, was pure white. Her work clothes were stained with even more green residue than Infiria's, and she smelled heavily of grass and other plants. Infiria called out to the old lady. Grandma. Infiria shouts. What is it? I can hear you even if you don't shout. My ears are sharp, you know. Lizzie responds. Infiria only had one grandmother, who was renowned as the greatest herbalist in this city, Lizzie Berar. Come take a look at this grandma, he says excitedly. When Lizzie accepted the potion from Infiria, Brita noticed her entire demeanor change. She was staring at this potion so intently it reminded Brita of someone looked in battle. After she appraised the potion, she looked to Brita. This potion is impossible. Where in the world did you get this from? A ruin? Lizzie asks her. Oh no, I am. Brita is surprised with the woman's reaction and isn't quite sure how to respond to her. What? Can you not speak? Just give me a straight answer. Where did you get it or did you steal it, and that is why you don't want to tell me? Lizzie says. Grandma, stop scaring the girl. Enfi says to Lizzie. What do you mean, Firia? I am not scaring the girl, am I? Lizzie asks. No ma'am. Another adventurer gave it to me as payment for breaking my potion. Brita tells her. Wait, someone gave this to you? Can you tell me who gave it to you? Enfi asks. When she explained she got it from a group of adventurers who were new to Irantal, Lizzie became very interested in these new adventurers. After Lizzie explains the different kinds of potions to Brita, she casts some spells to identify the potion for appraisal. Appraisal magic item detect enchantment. After she appraises the potion, she gets a huge smile on her face. She has never seen a potion so perfect before and cannot believe her eyes. Fwahahaha, so that is what it is. Look closely at this potion, Firia. This is the perfect potion. We have the pinnacle of alchemy right here in our shop, my boy. Lizzie's cheeks were red from her excitement, and she was huffing and puffing. However, she maintained her death grip on the potion bottle as she brought it before Nfiria's eyes. Nfiria was calm, unlike Lizzie, but Brita could feel the anticipation coming from him. Brita had no idea why the two of them were so excited. She had never seen any alchemist get this excited over a potion. Maybe those newbie adventurers didn't rip her off after all. How about you sell this potion to me? I'll give you a great deal on it. How does 40 gold sound? Lizzie says. Brita can't believe how much she just offered for the potion. The one that was broken wasn't even worth 2 gold. Why did that woman give her a potion worth 20 times that to replace it? Was selling it really the right move for her? She doubted she would ever get her hands on something like this again, and it might save her life one day. Lizzie can see the hesitation on Brita's face, so she proposed another deal. The next morning, Ainz opened up the doors to the Adventurers Guild. The first thing he noticed was the counter. There were 4 receptionists standing there waiting to help anyone who needed it. Luckily, there were 2 empty spots at the counter. The guild was full right now, unlike when they registered, and he could see the gazes of the other adventurers looking the 3 women with him up and down. He wished he would have made his character the Overlord race like he was going to when he started Yggdrasil. Being an emotionless undead would be a great help right now. Once he thought of being a skeleton for eternity and the drawbacks it would have on his relationship with Taylar, he decided it was good not to be a skeleton, and he would have to learn to deal with this. Excuse me, but we are looking for work. Ainz says to the receptionist. We have a job board right over there. She points to her left at the wall. Choose a job from the postings and bring it here, the receptionist says. As Ainz makes his way over to the board, he starts looking at the postings. Yep, I can't read any of this at all, he thinks to himself. Taylar, can you read any of this? Yes, I can, but only because I cast a silent comprehend languages. Do you see something we can easily do to get our rank up quickly? Honestly, all of these sound easy. It seems like adventurer in this world means monster hunter. We could easily accomplish anything posted on this board. What is the highest ranked one you see? There are a couple for mithril ranked adventurers. I don't see anything higher than that. Ainz rips one of the mithril ranked parchments off the wall and made his way to the receptionist. He sets the parchment down on the counter and tells the woman, We will take this job, Ainz says. I'm sorry, but this job is for someone of mithril rank, she says. I know, that is why I took it, Ainz replies. Well, about that, the receptionist cuts in. I assure you, we can do the job, Ainz says. I'm sorry, but the rules state she is interrupted again. The rules are stupid. We are adventurers where we come from, and this is a job that we can easily handle. It is tiresome to have to prove ourselves over and over again just to rank up. I'm sorry, but if you fail, people will die. I cannot let you take this based on your rank, the receptionist replies. Both of the magic casters with me can use 4th tier magic. Myself and the other warrior are both warriors of comparable strength. We will be more than happy to show you if it is required to take this job, Ainz states. Why did you tell her we could cast 4th tier spells? The theocracy could only cast up to the 3rd tier. Shouldn't you have said Tier 3? Taylar asks in a message to Ainz. While you're probably right, I know you have no offensive spells 3rd tier or lower. I want you to be able to use magic to defend yourself if you need to. Oh Lord Ainz, are you concerned about your queen? He turns and gives her a smile that makes her blush, then goes back to listening to the receptionist. I am sorry, but I still cannot give you this job because of the rules. I would lose my job if I did, she says. I see. Then it cannot be helped. I apologize for being so aggressive and putting you in a tough spot. Could you get me the most challenging copperplate job then, please? He asks her. Right as the woman is about to turn and get him the job, he hears someone call from behind him. How about helping us with our work then? Ainz turned around and saw a 4-person adventure team with silver plates hanging around their necks. He hoped them being silver plate would get him a better job, so he could rank up quickly. They weren't exactly short of cash because of Taylar selling some very old useless gear that was apparently very nice magic equipment in this city. He wanted to get famous quicker, so they would have access to better information. Is the work in question worth it? Ainz asks the blonde-haired man. Well, I feel it's worth it. Why don't we go up to a private room and discuss the details, the party leader says. Worthwhile jobs are what we are looking for. Please lead the way. Ainz says to him. On their way to the upstairs room, Ainz noticed all their party members looked quite young but had mature expressions and demeanor. He could see that, even in the guild building, these adventurers would be ready to draw their weapons at a moment's notice. As they entered the room and all took a seat, the leader of their party spoke up. Before we discuss the details of the job, how about we introduce ourselves? I am the leader of the Swords of Darkness, Peter Mock. To my right is our ranger and scout Lukrutvolv. Next to him is our magic caster, Ninja the spellcaster, and finally the man at the end of the table is Dinewood Wonder. He is our druid. Peter says to them, Peter, could you not use that embarrassing nickname, please? Ninja says, You have a nickname? Ainz asks him. He has a very valuable talent and is a genius magic caster. Peter answers, It's nothing much. It just happens to help what I was proficient in. A lot of people have great talents, but they usually don't match up well with a person. I just got lucky. Ninja humbly says. What does your talent let you do, Ninja? Taylar asks. I was born with the ability to learn magic in half the time it normally takes to learn. I just happen to have an affinity for magic, so it worked out well for me. If I didn't have any magic ability, I would still have the talent, but it would be useless. Ninja tells her. Well, no matter what, you are still a famous talent holder in Irantal. Peter says. There are people more famous than me, Peter. Ninja replies. Like the leader of Blue Rose? Lukrut says. That is one yes, but I was thinking of someone in the city. Ninja says. Oh, you must mean Firia Berar. Dine says. Who is that? Albedo asks. They all look at them with surprising looks on their faces. They must really not be from anywhere even remotely close to here, if they didn't know who that was. He is an alchemist in Irantal. He has the talent to use any magic item. Dine says. That sounds like a very useful person. He definitely does, Taylar, but he could also be dangerous. Imagine if he got his hands on the staff of Ainz Olgown. Taylar couldn't help but shudder at the thought of that happening. That boy could destroy everything if put in a situation like that and made the wrong choice. Well, I suppose it is time for us to introduce ourselves. I am Mammon, one of the frontline warriors for my magic casters. Ainz says, and he takes off his helmet so they can see his face. Taylar looks to see what face he used and was pleasantly surprised. She just stared at him like a girl in love. He used his face from Earth. She did miss seeing it. Albedo noticed the look in Taylar's eye and wanted to know why she was looking at Mamanga that way. Taylar, forgive me for asking, but why are you staring at the illusionary face of Mamanga that way? Well, Albedo, you remember our talk about our original world? Yes, I do, Taylor. That was Mamanga face in that world. I just miss seeing it, that's all. Albedo is very excited at this news. She gets to see Mamanga's original face, and after just a few seconds, she stares longingly at it just like Taylor is. Once Taylor realizes Ainz finished a few seconds ago, she snaps out of her daydream and introduces herself. I am Bella. I am a Miko, a spiritual magic caster. I believe you call them healers here. Taylor says. They had never heard of a Miko before. It intrigued all of them to find out what a spiritual magic caster could do. I am Ariel, the other frontline warrior for the magic casters. Albedo says. The Swords of Darkness are very surprised at this. They can't believe this beautiful woman could be a warrior on par with a Tier 4 magic caster. Nabe, elementalist of the party horseflies, insects. Narbril says disdain in every word she spoke. Taylor notices this and is about to get her to calm down, but Albedo looked at her as if to say, I got this. Narbril Gamma, I know these insects do not deserve to be treated as equals, but we must act the part for now. Do not worry, they will all bow before Nazarick one day. Yes, Lady Albedo, please forgive me. Albedo lets a gentle smile spread across her face and all is forgotten. Taylor noticed Nabe eased up a bit and was very proud of Albedo. It is nice to meet all of you. The work we were talking about isn't a specific job per SE. We will be hunting monsters on the outskirts of the towns. Peter says to them. So monster clearing, huh? Ainz says. In a sense, yes. When we kill a monster, we take a part of it as proof we killed it. The type of monster depends on what you need to take. Not only does it put money in our pockets, but it also helps the people in the surrounding areas by making it less dangerous. Luckrut says. It is pretty common now, but not too long ago it didn't even exist. Ninya tells them. They started talking about the policies of the country, and Ainz didn't want to interrupt. He didn't know a thing about this world, and wanted to learn as much as possible. He noticed Taylor and Albedo listening intently, as well, while Nabe looked like a bodyguard. She never relaxed when she was around Ainz and Taylor. There was no way she would be the one responsible for the last two supreme beings disappearing like the others. It's all thanks to Princess Renner. She also proposed a policy that would waive all taxes on adventurers, but it never passed. Ninya says. I didn't think the princess cared that much about adventurers, but I suppose it makes sense since her best friend is Lockhughes of Blue Rose. Luckrut says to them. Ainz would like to learn more, but they're getting off track now, and he would like to get this monster hunting job over with. So, about the monster hunting, Ainz says. Oh yes, sorry, Mammon. Dine apologizes to him. We will be heading south then west, and be killing as many monsters as we can. The most dangerous monster we might encounter would probably be an ogre. It will mainly be wolves and things of that nature. Peter says. Ainz is pretty disappointed. Ogres as the strongest enemy he might face. What a letdown. He had killed countless monsters and players in Yggdrasil, both with magic and blade. He longed for a good fight, although maybe now that the game had become reality, fighting to the death with no idea who would win might not be such a good idea. He thinks to himself. I assume since we both have 4 party members, we'll be splitting the money 50-50ths? Ainz asks. He wasn't exactly strapped for cash, but he wouldn't let anyone take advantage of him. Yes, that sounds fair, Mammon. Are all of you from the same land? You and Nabe look similar, and Ariel and Bella look similar, but different than you do. Peter says. Yes we are. We all come from the same faraway land. I suppose since we will be traveling together, we should get any questions you have out of the way. Do you have any questions for me? Ainz says. Me. What kind of relationship do you four have? Luckrut asks. Ainz is getting awful tired of things like this. He knew all 3 women with him were beautiful. By this world's standards, They were goddesses, but almost no one had any common courtesy here. Before he could detach Lucret's head from his shoulders, Taylar spoke up. Our personal lives are private, so please don't ask any questions like that. Peter bops Lucret on the head and turns to Ainz. I am sorry about my friend. He gets like that sometimes. It is fine as long as he does not pursue it further. I suppose we should get moving, Ainz says. They all get up to start their travels. When they are descending the stairs, Ainz notices the receptionist staring at him with a surprised look on her face. He wondered what was going on, then she approached him. Ah, Mr. Mommen, sir. You have been requested for a job by name, the receptionist says to him. And who is the person who asked for me by name? Ainz asks. That would be Nfiria Berar. She motions to the blonde-haired boy a lot of the adventurers are talking to. I am the one who put in the REQ dash, Ainz interrupts him. I am sorry, Mr. Berar, but I have already accepted a job, so I cannot take yours on at the moment. Ainz tells him. But Mr. Mommen, he requested you by name. Peter says. That may be true, but it is common courtesy to complete the job I already agreed to. Ainz replies. That response gets a lot of head nods and recognition from the other adventurers who heard him. Our job is hardly a request. If there are no monsters, we will not make any money. Peter says. How about we hear your request before we make any decisions? I would like for Swords of Darkness to join us, since they are the party we agreed to work with first. Ainz says to them. Peter and Nfiria agree, and they head back up to the room they just had their first meeting in. After everyone is seated, they all introduce themselves, even Nfiria. I know the receptionist mentioned earlier, but my name is Nfiria Berar. I work as an alchemist in the city. I will soon be headed to a forest in a nearby village to collect herbs for our business. I would need you to be my bodyguards for the duration of the trip and help me in harvesting if possible. Enfi says to them. Bodyguards, huh? Well, that should be easy enough. Ainz says. Compared to the usual fee, the payme dash, Ainz interrupts him. Hold on a moment, Mr. Berar. While I agree that we can guard you perfectly fine, there are things you need on a trip like this that we cannot give you. We do not have a scout in our party like Lucret to spot ambushes or nearby monsters, and if you are going into the forest, a druid like Dine would be invaluable, not only in finding the correct path, but also in helping you harvest your herbs. Would you agree to hiring all of us for this request of yours? Ainz says. That sounds fine to me, Mr. Mommen, and please call me Nfiria. So, as normal, I will set up camp in Karn village and head into the forest of Top from there, he says. Would it be alright if I asked you some questions, Nfiria? Ainz says. Sure, Mr. Mommen. Why did you request me by name? I only arrived here yesterday, and I do not know anyone here. So why me? You are obviously famous here, and anyone would love to do this for you. Ainz says to him. Well, the normal adventurers I hire moved to a new city, and I heard what Ariel did in the inn and thought it would be cheaper to hire copper plates. Nfiria replies. Ainz is about to leave it at that, but then Taylar interjects. While I'm sure some people would buy that, I am not one of them. You are obviously famous here, and any adventurer would be happy to do this. Instead, you hire people you know nothing about to go into a dangerous forest. What if we are murderers and thieves? You know nothing about us, and you don't seem to be that stupid to me, she says to him. Nfiria starts to get visibly flustered, and now Peter and the rest of the Swords of Darkness are wondering what he is hiding. You don't lie to people you are trusting to protect you. I dash, he sighs. The truth is I wanted to get close to you to find out where Ariel got that potion. It is a secret that has been lost as far back as history goes, and it is the dream of any alchemist to learn such a thing, he says to them. Albedo is sick on the inside. She can't believe giving that useless potion as payment led to them being sought out like this. Maybe she wasn't doing as good a job learning as Lady Taylar has said. She still had a long way to go to ever get on her level. She didn't think she deserved all the favors Lady Taylar was giving to her. Good work, Albedo. Lady Taylar? What do you mean good work? Why are you calling me lady again all of a sudden? I failed miserably, Lady Taylar. I gave that potion out thinking it was how you would want to solve it, and it only led to us being followed. I would not tell you good work if I did not mean it. Mamanga and I were discussing how to get this boy indebted to us when we heard of his talent. Now you have delivered him to us. Even if it wasn't your intention, it was your actions that brought him to us. So once again, good work, Albedo. Thank you, Lady Taylar. Still with the lady stuff, huh? Do not fall into despair so easily, Albedo. Not everything will go as planned as a ruler. Learn to use your failures to your advantage. Albedo hears what she says, but still doesn't think she is worthy enough yet to stand beside the Supreme Ones. Why not just ask us? Ainz says. I told my grandma this was a bad idea. I am a terrible liar. I'm surprised you didn't catch me sooner. And Firia says, why do you want knowledge of this potion? Ainz asks. It is a lost art. I just wanted to know how it was done. I haven't really thought past that, he says. Well, there is nothing wrong with that. Seeking out knowledge is what everyone should do. What you do with the knowledge is what makes all the difference. If you wanted to use that knowledge for evil, then we would have a problem. But since you just want knowledge, I see no problem with you being curious. Now that is settled, shall we make our preparations? Ainz asks. Mamanga, will you have a talk with Albedo before we depart? No matter what I say, she refuses to see her giving that adventurer a potion as nothing but a failure, even if it brought that boy right to us. I will talk with her, Taylar. We will meet everyone downstairs when we are done. Albedo, I want you to stay in the room when everyone leaves. I wish to speak with you. Yes, Lord Mamanga. After everyone else leaves, Ainz tells Albedo to take a seat so he can speak with her. He noticed immediately when she called him Lord again. For some reason, he disliked that greatly. Hearing Albedo call him Mamanga without honorifics made him feel great, but hearing her start using it again was depressing to say the least. Albedo, Taylar told me you think you failed miserably by giving that woman one of our potions. Ainz says. I did fail, Lord Mamanga. I tried to solve a problem on my own, and all it did was get us followed by the two most famous people in this city. Albedo replies. No, you did not fail, Albedo. If you would have hesitated for a second longer, I would have given that woman a potion instead. It is exactly what me or Taylar would have done. Just because it got us followed does not mean you failed. You must always turn every situation to your advantage when making decisions like that. You may think you failed, but you delivered a very interesting human to us without us having to form another plan or a scheme to get Firia near us. You cannot get so discouraged so easily. You have grown and learned a lot in the past week, Albedo. So much so that I cannot even believe it. We know how the Guardians and other members of Nazarick view Taylar, and I am very impressed you were even able to call us without honorifics so quickly. When you just called me Lord, it made me cringe, to be honest. I love hearing you call me just Mamanga. You may not believe it, but you have earned that through your actions since we came to this world. I know. Taylar has been teaching you a lot, and I am sorry I have not been as helpful as she has. If you ever doubt a decision you make or have questions, do not hesitate to come ask me anything. If you keep growing at this pace, you will be a very worthy Queen of Nazarick in no time, Albedo. Ainz tells her. Albedo was pretty depressed when Lord Mamanga wanted to speak with her alone. She thought he was going to tell her how bad she messed up by giving that potion out, and she deserved it in her eyes. When he was talking with her and telling her about what she had done, she could feel her heart start to soften at his words. She knew Lord Mamanga was caring and kind, but she had no idea it was to this extent. Thank you for your words, Lord Mamanga. I still have a long way to go, but hearing your words of encouragement on my progress has made me very happy. I will redouble my efforts to become a worthy queen for you. Albedo says. Albedo, please don't call me Lord. Whether you call me Maman, Mamanga, or Ainz, I do not want to hear that coming from you. You are a piece of my heart just like Taylar is, and hearing you say that just makes me sad. So please, do not call me Lord. Ainz says. He gets up, walks over to Albedo, gives her a hug and a kiss, and reassures her that she did nothing wrong. He had gotten used to Albedo acting like she was one of his companions, and the thought of her getting this depressed and thinking she was not worthy over something like this made him very sad. He just wanted Albedo to act like she had been no matter if she screwed up all the time. It was tiring being the ruler of Nazareth, and the escape that Taylar and Albedo gave him he needed more than anything. Once they were done speaking, Ainz and Albedo met everyone downstairs. They all headed out to get what they need for the journey. It isn't much, since they are only going to Karn village. While none of them need to eat, it would look strange if they ate nothing the whole time, so they bought rations for appearances. Then they headed out on their journey to Karn village. In the middle of the night, someone in a hood is walking through the cemetery in Irantal, their footsteps making no noise whatsoever, like they were walking on air. They made their way to a pitch-black tomb. Once they made their way through the tomb and arrived at the mausoleum. After a few moments, the figure removed its hood. She was an adorable woman in her early 20s. She would be considered quite the looker if it wasn't for the predatory look in her eyes. It was like she was constantly searching for her next target. She calls out into the darkness. "Where are you, Khajiit?" "I'm here." "Where the hell is that old grouch?" Clementine says. She smells the incense he likes to use and starts to follow it down the corridor. She pushes open the stone doors at the end of the hallway. "I'm coming in, Kaj," she calls out. She makes her way farther into the mausoleum and notices one of Khajiit's creepy followers trying to hide in the corner. "Oh, hey, Mr. Creepy Guy. Is that any way to treat a guest? Tell Khajiit I'm here to see him already," Clementine says. The man really didn't know what to do. Before he could figure it out, he heard footsteps coming from behind him. "It is fine. You may leave us," Khajiit tells the man. The man was dressed in a dark red robe that was the color of dried blood and wore a necklace made of the skulls of small animals. His hands were so shriveled that they resembled claws, and his fingers, tipped with yellow fingernails, were wrapped around a black staff. Rather than a human, he looked more like an undead monster. "Kaji-3i, why did you keep me waiting so long?" Clementine says with a grin. "You know I'm infusing the orb of death with negative energy and don't have time to deal with your games, Clementine," Khajiit tells her. "Oh, but I brought you a present, Khajiit." Clementine reached behind her cloak and held up a circlet. It was made of thin, metallic threads. Countless small gems adorned the spiderweb-looking metal, and in the center of the circlet was a large black crystal. "Is that?" Khajiit can't believe what she has: the crown of wisdom, the symbol of a Miko princess, and one of the treasures of the slain theocracy. "Oh, that is correct, Khajiit. I saw this cute little girl wearing it and decided it didn't fit her. So I took it off her head. She went a little crazy when I did that, pissing her pants and crapping all over the place. It was hilarious," Clementine says to him, laughing while explaining it to him. "Why would you betray the Black Scripture for such a trash item? You should have taken one of the divine artifacts of the 6 gods," Khajiit says. You think this is trash, huh? That is a little mean, don't you think?" she says. "Nothing wrong with calling it trash. Sure, it is very powerful, but finding someone who can actually use that thing is 1 in a million at best. There probably isn't even another person in the slain theocracy who can also wear that," he tells her. "You know the artifacts are guarded by the strongest godkin and extra seat of the Black Scripture. Getting them is impossible," Clementine tells him. "I doubt they are actually that strong. I have only heard about them from you," Khajiit says to her. "Anyone who hasn't witnessed it themselves, I'm sure, would have your same idea, but I came here so you would help me. In return, I'll help you." "How does that sound?" she asks. "What could you possibly need help with, Clementine?" he asks. "You cause a distraction while I kidnap and fire a bearer. He has the talent to use any magic item. He should be able to use this one. In exchange, I will let you use the boy for your ritual. That's a good deal, don't you think? Clementine says. I will take that deal, Clementine. I will aid you with everything I have at my command. Khajiit tells Clementine. After they agree to their deal, they begin making preparations for Khajiit's ritual. He is going to use the Orb of Death to destroy the city and use the collected negative energy to turn himself into an Elder Lich. There are 2 different ways to get to Karn Village from Irantal. First, you could travel north along the road, then turn east and follow the edge of the Great Forest of Tob. The second one, you could follow the road east, then take the road north. The second route was by far the safest way to get there. They chose the first route. Their reasoning was so they could do both jobs at once. Normally, no one would choose a more dangerous route when hired as bodyguards, but when they got just outside the city, Nabe and Bella showed the Swords of Darkness that they could cast Tier 4 magic. Nabe cast the Tier 4 spell Shock Lance, while Bella cast a Tier 4 summoning spell and summoned a Principality of Observation, just like the captain of the Sunlight Scripture did. They were all very impressed that there were 2 people so young who could already cast Tier 4 magic. Ninya was a little jealous. Bella and Nabe didn't look much older than her, and she had the talent to learn magic faster, but they could already cast Tier 4, and she could only cast Tier 2 right now. Once they decided on a route, they set the formation they would travel in the majority of their journey. Nfaria would be driving the cart, Luckrut and Dine would take the lead, with Luckrut walking a little ahead of the druid. Peter and Ninya would be on the left side of the cart, Albedo and Taylar would be on the right side of the cart, and Ainz and Narbrol would be the rear guard. They had been traveling along the road for a while now, and had yet to have a reason to be nervous. It was a nice day out, visibility was good on the plains they were traveling on, and there was nowhere for monsters or bandits to ambush you from. They could see the forest getting closer and closer as they traveled. When they were just a little bit away from the forest, someone finally said something. This is where we should start to really be on alert, Mr. Mammon. We should be able to handle anything that comes our way, but it is best to be as alert as possible anyway. Peter says to him. I understand. Ainz says. Ainz was in deep thought about what he had learned about this world so far. He knew he was strong by this world's standards. He was one of the top 3 PvP players in all of Yggdrasil after all. After he lost to Touch Me in the World Tournament Finals, he put all his effort into PvP with his brand new class exclusive to him. When he realized that the more people he killed with his side, the stronger it got, he became obsessed with PvP. That is why Seraphim feared his name so much. He remembered when he met Taylar and the things she told him Seraphim guild members said about him. He was like the boogeyman to them, and it brought a very satisfied grin to his face. He got so engrossed in PvP, before he knew it, even Touch Me couldn't defeat him. Unlocking the Eclipse class had taken Ainz over the top when it came to battles. The ability The Goal of All Life is Death made it so that he could kill anyone at any time if he could survive for 12 seconds. It was true, it had a very long cooldown, but there were few people he would actually need to use that ability on. He had heard of no one in the world. Ainz, Taylar, Albedo, and Narbrol had already discussed what they would do in an emergency situation. They would cast Tier 5 magic if necessary, but Ainz doubted that would be necessary. Even if he could only cast a few spells with this armor on, he was still a top-tier fighter. Fear not. Only an ambush would cause us problems, and nothing escapes my eyes and ears. Aren't I the best, Bella? Luckrut says to Taylar. I know I already told you not to ask about our personal lives. You should have got the hint that it also meant none of us are interested. Taylar replies to the ranger. Such cold words from Bella. Very well, I will slowly close the distance between dash. Luckrut is interrupted by something very tall and jet black landing right next to him. Ainz had heard Luckrut's comments and was just going to let it go. He was having to deal with things like this on a daily basis because of how the 3 of the women with him looked, and he was learning to let it go. When Bella told him they weren't interested, he was glad it was over, but Luckrut still didn't get the hint. He wasn't going to let this jackass make any of them uncomfortable. He planted his right foot in the ground and pushed off with all his strength. He jumped over the cart, over Infiria, and even over Dine. He landed right next to Luckrut. He was going to put a stop to this right now. He was angry to the point he thought of just killing him, but realized what that would lead to. If he couldn't even control himself over something like that, he didn't deserve to rule Nazarick. Luckrut, she told you they weren't interested. I might be an adventurer and go on many quests, but nothing is more important to me than protecting these three. If you continue like this, I will do what is necessary to protect them. After he finishes saying his piece, he makes his way back to the rear guard and Narbrel. He could see the stares coming from everyone else. He noticed Taylar, Albedo, and Narbrel all blushing. He was even more clueless why they were like that than last time. This wasn't the first time he said that about any of them now, and didn't know why they were still reacting like that. He noticed Dine, Ninya, Peter, and Firia all looking at him with jaws on the floor. He realized when he saw their expression that he just leaped about 40 feet in full plate armor over a cart. Probably not something any of them have seen someone do before. Infiria finally snapped out of his amazement and noticed the tense atmosphere around everyone. He tried to get everyone thinking of something else by mentioning they shouldn't have to worry about monsters around here. We will be fine around here. This is the wise king of the forest territory. We shouldn't see any monsters unless we have really bad luck on our trip. The wise king of the forest, huh? Ainz says. He remembers the village chief talking about this creature. The chief made it sound like it was some incredible magic creature. Ainz had no doubt it was a magical creature of some sort, but doubted it was actually very strong. The chief talked about Gazef like he was undefeatable, so he figured the wise king was probably somewhere around his level. So Ainz had nothing to worry about. He had a good grasp of the power of the creatures and people from this region. What he was clueless about was how they could use Yggdrasil magic, martial arts, politics, policies, and things of that nature. It seemed Ninya was the most knowledgeable in the Swords of Darkness, so Ainz thought he would try talking to her about it. Ninya, do you mind if I ask you about magic? Ainz asks her. Wouldn't it be better to ask than me, Mr. Malman? I can only cast 2 tier 2 spells, and I know Nabe can at least cast tier 4. Ninya asks Ainz. While you are right, she can cast that high of a tier because she is specialized. She is pretty much limited to lightning spells. It makes you learn tiers quicker, but you can't cast nearly as many spells. I was hoping someone like you, who doesn't specialize, could inform me of other spells. I must be as prepared as possible to protect the people close to me. Ainz tells Ninya. Some of what he said was the truth. Other parts were an excuse to ask about an array of things. Sure, Mr. Malman, ask whatever you like. Ninya says to him. When Ainz asked Ninya about the magic in this world, he was surprised what he learned. He knew the people of this world weren't strong by his standards, but to find out tier 5 and 6 spells were considered the realm of heroes was baffling. When he asked about combination magic, Ninya had no idea what he was talking about. It sounded like ritual magic, but different. Ainz had discovered combination magic 2 years ago, just minutes after Hero turned in all his gear and logged on for the last time. He was frustrated beyond reason when it happened because he knew it was now just him and Taylar. To think Ainz' Olgown would be down to only 2 members filled Ainz with sadness and rage. He went to the arena to blow off some steam and discovered it by complete accident. He tried to cast Grand Fireball, tier 4, but slammed his fist on the icon to cast and accidentally hit Ray of Negative Energy, tier 4, at the same time. What happened blew Ainz' mind, and he told Taylar the moment she logged on. His Grand Fireball had a new name when he cast it at that time. It was called Grand Death Ball, a tier 6 spell. They figured out together that if you use 2 spells at the same time, it would combine their magic into something new. This did not work for every spell, and for Taylar it was pretty much useless. It wasn't possible to combine healing spells. The only two spells she knew that could combine were Napalm, Tier 7, and Holy Ray, Tier 4. It was called Holy Firestorm and counted as a Tier 9 spell. It was very effective but used a lot of MP. Ainz actually took full advantage of this new discovery because of the number of spells he knew. While he didn't know as many as, say, an Overlord Wiseman with Dark Wisdom, he did know quite a few, and since most of his instant death magic is simply granted to him, he chose a lot of offensive spells of all elements. His favorite of those he could never choose. Grand Death Ball fit his build perfect, but his Tier 10 combination magic spell Chain Negative Lightning was cool looking and very effective. It turned the dragon lightning into negative energy. It not only did lightning and negative energy damage, but it also drained someone's life force. Sometimes they would lose levels, sometimes stat points, other times people simply just died instantly. While I have never heard of such things, Mr. Malman, it does not mean they aren't possible. I am from the Riestai's kingdom, and while we have a mage's guild, there is nowhere to formally train or grow wizards here. A place like the Baharuth Empire that has a magical academy might be able to do or create the type of spells you are asking about. The Slain Theocracy has a similar academy, but it is for divine magic casters, and I know nothing of that. I think Bella would have a better understanding of that kind of magic than me or anyone else in the kingdom. Ninya tells Ainz. I see, so it would take a whole country to try to produce the sort of spells I am asking about, huh? Do you mind if I ask you about something else then? Ainz says. He kept asking questions about anything he could think of. He did learn some interesting things he didn't know. The Argand Council was supposedly made up of 5 dragon lords. Dragons were the strongest race in Yggdrasil, and he would have to be careful with them. He quickly realized this world was nothing like Earth at all. Their technological advancements had all centered around magic, and Earth obviously didn't have magic. He thought that was a good thing. Industry had completely destroyed his world. There might still be a world there with people on it, but very few were happy, and the planet was being destroyed at an alarming rate. The first time he ever laid his eyes on stars was with Taylar when they came to this new world. As Ainz and Ninya's conversation was starting to die down, Lukrut spoke for the first time since being scared nearly to death by Ainz. There is movement up ahead coming out of the forest. Where exactly is it coming from? Taylar asks. Lukrut points towards the edge of the forest. Ainz followed the ranger's finger and saw about 50 creatures starting to make their way out of the forest. He noticed 2 different types of monsters coming at them. The first was obviously goblins. He was a little surprised that, unlike in Yggdrasil, all the goblins did not look the same. They each had individual appearances like any other race. The second group also had their own appearances, but were definitely ogres. There were 10 ogres and 40 goblins, nothing Ainz couldn't handle on his own with ease. He needed to let the whole party show off, though, and couldn't kill all of them. So, Mr. Malman, how should we do this? We can't really split them in half because we don't know what side they will go to. Peter says to Ainz. Why don't the Swords of Darkness and Bella guard Infiria? Nabe, Ariel, and I will take out the enemies. Ainz says to Peter. Mr. Malman, there are 50 enemies. Surely some will slip past with just 3 of you. Peter says to him. Is he really this worried about 50 goblins and ogres? We might stand out faster then. I thought if silver-ranked adventurers are worried about fighting these odds. At this rate, I bet an adamantite party couldn't stop a level 100. Ainz thinks to himself. If they do get past, I'm sure you will handle them, but I doubt you have anything to worry about, Peter. Bella, please cast your protection spells on the cart so Infiria is not in danger. Nabe, Ariel, let us go handle these creatures. Ainz says. Sanctuary wall of protection from arrows. Taylar says after she jumps up on the wagon next to Infiria. They were surprised at the bubbles that formed around them that felt like a protective blanket was over them. Don't show off too much, Malman. Let them have some fun too. Taylar says to Ainz. The Swords of Darkness and Infiria were dumbstruck at what Taylar said. They were still trying to get a grasp on the spells she just cast, then she casual asked Mammon to share the kills and not hog them all. They had a feeling they were about to see something special happen in a moment. As Ainz, Albedo, and Narberl casually strolled towards the enemy, he gave them both orders. Nabe, I will give you first shot at the goblins since they are bunched up. Ariel, you take care of the ogres, and I will clean up the goblins left after Nabe's attack. Don't take too long, or I'll have to steal some of your ogres, he says to Albedo, smiling. The Swords of Darkness notice that they finally start to draw their weapons after Nabe cast the fly spell and started floating up in the air. They saw Ariel reach for her shield and weapon. None of them had seen her weapon yet, but judging from what they thought was the handle sticking out from behind her shield with a strange symbol on it and her pure white cloak, they guessed it was a mace. When she pulled out a great axe and held it in one hand, they all had one thought. Where the hell did she hide that axe? If they were surprised when she pulled that out when Mammon pulled out his dual greatswords that seemed to be made of pure darkness, they had no words to describe that scene. The only reason they could tell the size of the swords was because of the small silver edge that seemed to wrap its way all around the blade. The end was shaped like a half moon, and the razor edge seemed to shine in the light. Only someone who could be called a hero would be able to wield such ridiculous weapons. When they finally came back to their senses, Nabe started her attack. Since Lord Ainz had allowed her to cast up to tier 4, she could use metamagics on her spells. It was time to go all out based on her restrictions and roast these insects for attempting to harm the supreme beings. Twin. Maximize magic electrosphere. As Nabe spreads out her arms, 2 small spheres of electricity form in her palms. When she brings her hands together, they form one ball and grow about 5 times in size. Nabe is aiming for the back half of the goblins so that Lord Ainz doesn't have to chase insects around. It was her job to keep the supreme beings safe, and she would do it as effectively and efficiently as allowed. If it was up to her, she would just cast Chain Dragon Lightning and kill all of the enemies at once, but she was not allowed to use spells of that tier. As the ball of lightning explodes in the back of the goblin formation, Mammon and Ariel both make their moves. Ariel sprung forward with his speed matching Mammon's when he leaped over the cart and dashed past 3 ogres. When she finally came to a stop, she didn't look back as the ogres' bodies suddenly started spraying blood from slashes that went all the way across their chests. When they finally gathered themselves and figured out what just happened, their upper and lower half slid apart, and they hit the ground dead. Not to be outdone, Mammon dashed forward with his great sword spread out wide. He slashed with his right sword and decapitated 8 goblins at once. He kept his momentum going after the swing and spun his body to match, while bringing his other greatsword around like a backhand from death itself. When he finally finished his 2-rotation whirlwind attack, there were already no more goblins left to kill. When Albedo saw him dispatch them so quickly, she needed to step up her game. She could not allow herself to let anyone think someone in their party was weak. She dashed through 3 more ogres, but instead of stopping, she continued her forward momentum and shield bashed the 4th one in line. The shield bash sent the ogre flying into the one behind it. She jumped in the air to come down and finish off the ones laying on the ground. When she looked down, she saw a lightning bolt go under her and kill the last 2 ogres who were still standing. She knew Nabe had just done that and was a little disappointed. She thought maybe she took too long to kill her enemies and was making all of them look weak. Mammon flicked the blood off his great swords and turned around to the caravan. He saw Taylar smiling at him and smiled himself, not that anyone could see it. When he saw the look on the Swords of Darkness and Faria's faces, he thought maybe they overdid it. You were saying we need certain parts of monsters to collect the reward. What is it for goblins and ogres? Ainz asks them. You're amazing, Mr. Mammon. You too, Ariel and Nabe. I can't believe you handle all of those enemies so fast and so easy. There really is always someone stronger, isn't there? Peter says to them. In time, the Swords of Darkness will be able to do the same, Peter. We just have more experience than you do right now. We might only be copperplates, but as we said, we are adventurers where we come from. Ainz says to him. I'm not sure about that, Mr. Mammon. Based on what I just saw, you guys are already at least orichalcum rank, if not adamantite. As far as your question goes, we need to take their ears, either right or left, but pick one because if there are right and left ears, it will only count as one kill since they could have come off the same monster. Peter replies, Mr. Mammon, what kind of man are you? Ninya says in almost a whisper. What do you mean by that, Ninya? You saw my face. I'm clearly just a man. Ainz says to her. I've just never seen someone so big, with so much strength, move so fast, Mr. Mammon. Ariel was just as fast as you two, but she is much smaller than you are. How did you train your arms to be able to wield two weapons so big? She asks him. Oh, there's no need to go that far, Ninya. That was nothing much. Ariel could have done the same thing. Ainz replies. I know you said at the guild you were both warriors on par with tier 4 casters, but you were obviously not bluffing. I bet you could even beat the warrior captain. Ainz says to him. Taylar, Albedo, and Nabe were just standing there with their chests puffed out as if to say, of course he could. Ainz, on the other hand, was trying to play it off as best as possible but was failing miserably. If you didn't want praise like this, you three shouldn't have killed 50 enemies in 8 seconds, Taylar tells him in a message, trying her hardest to keep the grin off her face. Yeah, I think we kind of overdid it. I seriously underestimated the power of the people from this kingdom. The Swords of Darkness had worked hard to make themselves stronger, and they had carefully saved all their earnings, using them to strengthen themselves. However, even when they looked back on all the effort they had put in since becoming adventurers, none of them could imagine themselves on Ainz, Ariel, Nabe, or Bella's level. To the Swords of Darkness, Ainz stood for a strength that almost nobody could reach. This people traveling with them would someday become heroes, whose name would be known all over the world. They would become great heroes that would stand atop all other adventurers. Everyone was sure of that. After they removed the ears from their kills, they traveled until dusk. Then they set up camp. Ainz took the wooden poles handed to him by others and erected them around the campsite. Because they had to shelter a horse and wagon, the campsite in question was around 20 meters on each side and covered a fairly large area. The poles went into 4 points around the campsite, and then thin ropes were tied around the poles, forming a perimeter. Finally, they tied a knot in one of the ropes and pulled it over to their tents, where they attached a big bell to it. This was their alarm system. As Ainz was driving the poles into the ground, Narbrol came around. Narbrol should have some work to do. I wonder what she's doing over here. Maybe she's finished already. Ainz thinks to himself. With those thoughts in mind, Ainz turned around. As he did, Narbrol spoke in a low voice that suggested that she was holding back feelings of anger. Mr. Mammon, you should not be doing work like this. Nabe says to him. Ainz sighed in relief as he learned the reason for her anger. He looked around and then quietly replied. Everyone's working together to pitch camp. Albedo and Taylar are gathering wood. The Swords of Darkness are checking the perimeter. It would be odd if I was the only one not doing anything. Have they not seen your incredible fighting power? People should do what they are suited for, so this sort of work should be left to insects like them. Nabe says to him. Don't say things like that, Nabe. We need to establish ourselves as powerful individuals, but we mustn't project an image of arrogance while we do it. You need to check yourself a little too. I know Albedo already warned you about this. Ainz says to Narbrol. Narbrol nodded to show that she understood, but it was evident to Ainz that, while she didn't like these orders, she was loyal enough to him, Taylar and Nazarick, that she would go along with this. He was sure he would still have to remind her every once in a while about her attitude, but it should be better than it was. He would have to thank Albedo later for whatever she said to Narbrol to get her to calm down somewhat. In all honesty, Ainz was having fun being out here with everyone. It was true the monsters were weak and no challenge at all, but traveling with Taylar, Albedo, and Narbrol was turning out to be a good time. Unlike in Yggdrasil, This was reality, not virtual reality, so Ainz could enjoy everything that came along with traveling. When Ainz finished, he noticed Ninya casting an alarm spell that didn't exist in Yggdrasil. It made him wonder if anyone from Nazarick could learn these spells since the magic system was identical. It also brought up the question of whether they could gain levels in this new world. He assumed that he, Taylar, and the floor guardians that were level 100 were at level cap, but the Pleiades, some subordinates of the guardians, and the homunculi maids were all below level 100. He would need to keep an eye on Narbel's experience gain, and hope she could level in this new world. He didn't want to risk any subordinates or the homunculi maids unless he was certain they could gain levels. While he was pondering these questions, Ninya noticed Ainz was staring at her intently. "There's no need to watch me so intently, Mr. Mammon. I'm sure what I'm doing is very boring for someone of your strength." Ninya says to him. "No, not at all, Ninya. I told you I was curious about magic and you know a lot of spells Nabe and Bella do not, Ninya," he tells her. "It is still hard for me to believe someone's so much stronger than I wouldn't know these spells, but I guess if she specialized to gain power faster it would make sense," she says to him. "I wish I could cast spells like you, Ninya," Ainz says to her. "To think you'd want to be able to cast spells even though you are a swordsman of unequaled power. I'd say it seems kind of greedy, but it sounds more like any other adventurer." Luckrut mutters to himself. "I could see you having the talent for magic, Mr. Mammon. You seem different from other adventurers, you all do, almost like you guys aren't human." Ninya says to him. "You really think so? I mean, you saw all of our faces. It isn't like we are not human." Ainz replies. "I didn't mean it like that, Mr. Mammon. Taking out an ogre in one blow, or killing 40 goblins in 6 seconds, is not something a normal person can do." Ninya says then Dine joins in as he arrives and hears Ninya's comments. Appearances aside, Ninya has a point, Mr. Mammon. A hero is someone who surpasses the realm of human possibility. All of us get that feeling from every one of you four. I think you might be exaggerating a little bit, Dine. I wouldn't claim to be some sort of hero from a story or anything like that. Ainz says to him. Just as they were finishing up their conversation, Taylar and Albedo came around the tent. "Sorry to interrupt your conversation, Mammon, but dinner is ready," Taylar says to him. "Don't worry about it, Bella. We were just finishing up. I'm starving after that battle. Did you and Ariel make dinner for us?" Ainz asks her. "We sure did. Don't worry, we only poisoned your share, Mammon, hee. Taylar laughs. This was her first attempt at cooking in this new world. She could cook pretty well in Japan, but this was completely different. She learned Albedo had cooking skills given to her by Tabula and was having her teach her. She wasn't sure she was getting the skill or anything like that, but from what she just tasted in the pot, she certainly was getting pretty decent at it. They informed Infiria about dinner and all sat down to share a meal. None of the members of Ainz party needed to eat, but they could if they wanted to. Truthfully, he wanted to taste Taylar's cooking. He knew it wouldn't taste like the dishes from Nazarick, but those were all made with the best ingredients possible and by it being specifically designed to cook. He was very surprised by how outstanding dinner was. He wasn't sure what kind of ingredients Taylar and Albedo used, but it was almost on par with Nazarick's fare. He had no idea how she made that happen out here in the wild. Bella, Ariel, dinner was fantastic. I had no idea you could eat so well while traveling. I can't believe you can cook so well and be so strong on top of it. Maybe I'm going about getting stronger all wrong. Ninya says to them after she devours her share of the stew. As they were all finishing up their dinner, Ainz asked a question he was curious about since he met the Swords of Darkness. I know you guys call yourselves the Swords of Darkness, but I don't see any of you wielding black blades. Why name yourselves the Swords of Darkness? Ainz asks no one in particular. Peter chuckles before he answers. Those are Ninya's dreams, Mr. Mammon. You're never going to let me live that down, are you, Peter? Ninya asks. There's nothing to be embarrassed about, Ninya. It is good to have dreams. Dine tells her. Come on, Dine. I'm not kidding here. Ninya says to the druid. Well, the name Swords of Darkness refers to the swords used by one of the 13 heroes. Peter tells Ainz. Great, that doesn't answer my question at all. Who the hell are the 13 heroes? I've heard of the 6 gods of the slain theocracy and the demon gods, but never the 13 heroes. I wonder if I should act like I know what they're talking about. Ainz thinks to himself. Who are the 13 heroes? Belle asks. Oh, thank you, Taylar. Ainz thinks. You really don't know Bella? He was one of the 13 heroes, but because people thought he was a demon, he ended up being more of an anti-hero instead. Therefore, his origins were covered up in the saga of the 13 heroes. The Swords of Darkness belonged to a man known as the Black Knight. There were 4 weapons: Kiliniram, Croctable, Sphes, and Hyumelis. Peter tells everyone. When Ainz thought about these weapons and someone called the Black Knight, he thought of Yggdrasil. There was a class known as a Cursed Knight that wielded weapons just like that. It also made him almost certain the person was from Yggdrasil and a Cursed Knight when they talked about demonic ancestry. If you put enough levels into Cursed Knight, you started to gain demonic resistances and your appearance slightly changed to resemble that of a demon. After hearing about the weapon, Ainz thought this knight could be over level 75 at most. Listening to Nigan tell him that the Dominion authority he summoned could kill a demon lord made him think he might be around level 60 actually, but better to overestimate your opponent than underestimate them. Ainz quickly started listening to the ongoing conversation after he contemplated what he had learned so far. Finding those swords was my first objective. There is a ton of legends about weapons like that, but the existence of the Swords of Darkness is still a mystery to everyone. Ninya says to them, but then Firia interrupted him. There is someone who already possesses one of the Swords of Darkness, Ninya. The leader of Blue Rose, Locuse. She possesses the demonic sword Kiliniram. Really? That means we can't give one to everyone in the party now. Lukrut says. It was the first words he had spoken since Ainz warned him about how he was talking to the women in his party. It seemed finding out the legendary treasure they were after gave him the courage to speak up again. Well, if it is owned by a member of an adamantite team, I guess there is nothing we can do about that. Peter says to them. That's true, Peter, but if one of them exists, that means the other 3 must also be real. We just need to get strong enough to get them ourselves. Ninya says to Peter. Well, at least for now, we still have that. Dine says. What do you mean by that? Taylar asks them. Peter pulls a dagger out of a hidden scabbard. It had a black blade with 4 jewels embedded in the handle. He holds it up for everyone to see. Before we discover the real thing, we plan to use this as the symbol of our party. After that round of questions and answers, the adventurers continued laughing and carrying on with the conversation. They asked questions of Ainz, Taylar, Albedo, Narbril, and Firia. Ainz was affected by the atmosphere more than he would like to admit. It made him smile watching the Swords of Darkness interact like this. It made him think of his past comrades and the adventures they used to go on. He was lucky to have Taylar still with him, or he was sure this would be having a much heavier burden on him than it was. He looked over in her direction, almost out of instinct, just to make sure she was still there. He couldn't help but smile at her sitting there listening to the Swords of Darkness intently. You all seem like you get along quite well. Are all adventure parties like yours? Ainz asks them. I would think so, Mr. Mammon. I mean, you do face death together on a regular basis. I don't think a party would survive very long if they didn't get along. Peter says to him. It helps we don't have any women in our party. I hear mixed parties have a lot of arguments. Lukrut says. Taylar looks at Ninya. She might be acting like a lower-powered version of herself, but she was still the angel of life. She knew Ninya was a girl. She just wondered why she was hiding it from her party members. Before she could ask Ninya, Ninya said, If there were, I'm sure Lukrut could sniff them out. It helps we have a clear objective all of us are aiming for. Yeah, it's different when everyone has the same goal in mind. Were you in an adventuring party before Mr. Mammon? Peter asks. I don't really think we were adventurers. Ainz pauses thinking about his first comrades he ever made in Yggdrasil. After he realized how silent it was at his somber mood, he continued trying to break the awkward silence. When I was still weak, I was saved by a paladin of pure white with a shield and sword. Through him, I met 4 more comrades. We formed a team that numbered 6 people, including myself. After that, we met 3 more weak people like ourselves, and we ended up as a team of 9 people. They were all great companions. A paladin, sword master, priest, ninja, sorcerer, alchemist, blacksmith, and an ass, Pero. Ainz looks up at the stars reminiscing about the beginning of Nine's own goal that would later become Ain's old gown when they went from a clan to a guild. Taylar notices this and chimes in with her own story. I was saved when my comrades turned on me for helping someone they did not like. I was running through the woods, about to be caught, when a man in pure black swooped in and saved me. She looks at Ainz and smiles. That is how I met Mammon, and we have been traveling together ever since. Taylar tells everyone. Even Albedo was listening intently to Taylar's story. She had no idea how Taylar and Ainz met, but knew they were almost inseparable after she joined the guild. She had a feeling that wasn't the whole story, but she knew she couldn't say exactly what happened since the swords of darkness were present. I'm sure you will find companions like that again someday, Mr. Mammon. Ninya says to him. After hearing Ninya's words, something snapped inside of Ainz. They all left. I have everyone I need right here with me. The anger in Ain's voice even startled Albedo, Taylar, and Narbril. They were all happy about what he said about them, but knew he was having trouble with everyone leaving them. They were all sad too, except Taylar and Albedo. They both felt just like Ainz, but for a different reason. Both of them didn't care if no one else came back. They just wanted to be with Ainz. Once Ainz realized he just snapped for no real good reason, he stood up to get some space from them and calmed down. Dinner was delicious, Ariel and Bella. I'm going to check the perimeter. Please excuse me. He gets up and walks away from the fire. It was moments like these he wished he chose a race that suppressed your emotions when they got out of control. Being a fallen angel did not help at all in that regard. He felt all his emotions, stronger than he ever remembered when he was on Earth. I will join him and check the perimeter. Ariel, Nabe, can you please clean up dinner for us? Taylar says to them. They both nod in agreement, and Taylar sets off to find Ainz. She knew he missed their old comrades, and she wanted to help him get over them leaving. Hearing him say all he needed was her made her heart fill with joy, but she couldn't be too happy when Ainz was still so sad and angry. A few seconds after leaving the tent, she found Ainz talking to himself a little ways off from the camp. They begin to walk away from the camp so they can talk without anyone hearing them. Are you all right? She asks him. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I shouldn't have snapped like that. Ainz tells Taylar. It is okay to be angry at them. I am angry also. If you weren't here, I don't know what I would do. I certainly wouldn't be able to rule Nazarick alone. Taylar says to him. I'm glad you are with me. I'm sorry if it seemed like I cared more about those who aren't here, instead of those that are. Ainz says to her, regret in every word. No need to apologize. You said you had everything you need with you. I assume that means me. She says and gives him a radiant smile. She noticed it always picked him up when she smiled at him like that. Yes, I meant you. All of Nazarick, really. It gives me a purpose in this world. I just want all of you to be happy, he tells her. Taylar steps in front of Ainz and wraps her arms around him. And that is why I love you. Always thinking about everyone else before yourself. I really hate it when you wear this armor. Hugs just aren't the same, she pouts. Ainz takes his helmet off, smiles at her, and gives her a kiss. He might have saved her in Yggdrasil, but she was doing the same thing for him in this world. While Taylar and Ainz were having their conversation, the Swords of Darkness, Nympharia, Nabe, and Ariel had their own conversation. I definitely just said something I shouldn't have. Ninya says to them. It seems like something happened in his past. Dine says. They might have all been wiped out. I've seen that kind of reaction from someone who has lost all his comrades in battle. Peter says. No, they were not wiped out. Albedo interrupts them. She didn't want to give them too much information, but listening to them talk about the guild members was starting to anger her. They all abandoned Lord Momo Dash. Nabe is interrupted by a slap to the back of the head by Albedo. Watch what you say, Nabe. She gives her a look and Narble finally realizes she just called Ainz Lord. They all left like Nabe said. They weren't killed, they simply didn't want to travel with Mammon and Bella anymore. It is still a sore spot with Mammon, so please, don't bring it up again. Thinking about his past companions just makes him sad and angry. Albedo tells the Swords of Darkness. You can't take back what you said, Ninya. All you can do is try to make up for what you already said. Dine tells her. I know what it is like to lose someone. I should have known better than to say something like that. Ninya replies. Everyone saw the depressed look on Ninya's face, but no one knew what to say to her to cheer her up. After a few moments of silence, Nympharia spoke up to try and lighten the mood a bit. Mr. Mammon and Ms. Ariel were spectacular, weren't they? I knew they would be strong after seeing Nabe and Bella's magic, but I didn't think they would be that strong. She cut 3 ogres in half with one attack, and he killed 20 goblins in seconds. Peter says. Beating an ogre in one blow is amazing in its own right, but how good do you have to be to cleave 3 in half? Nympharia asks them. The Swords of Darkness looked at each other after hearing Nympharia's puzzled question. Nympharia was a young man who was famous for his innate talent, as well as an excellent magic caster. Although he might well shake the world with his abilities, it was difficult for him to understand the full extent of Ainz and Albedo's power without another warrior for comparison. Normally you use a great axe to hack things to pieces, but Ariel not only used it as a slashing weapon, but she also wielded it one-handed. I thought it would be impossible for anyone to cut something in half like that, let alone 3 of them at once. It would seem there are exceptions to that train of thought. Peter tells Nympharia. Honestly speaking, I think Ariel, Mammon, Bella, and Nabe are on the same level as the warrior captain. Luckrut says. I believe they are adamantite-level adventurers already. They are just new to this area. They definitely stand at the peak of humanity. Living legends, in other words. Peter tells them. Of course we are. I have never met an adamantite adventurer before, but I doubt they would stand a chance against Mammon. Albedo says to them, puffing her chest out with pride at loving such a man as Ainz. Nympharia couldn't believe what he was hearing from them. All he could do was mutter. That's incredible. Peter hears the amazement in Nympharia's voice and adds his own thoughts. The first time I saw Mr. Mammon, dressed in a suit of stylish full-plate armor while wearing the copper plate belonging to the lowliest of adventurers, I felt jealous, but now that I've seen that he has the skills to match his looks, there's nothing more I can say. Mr. Mammon's abilities are worthy of his full plate. I'm kind of jealous of how strong he is, to be honest. After hearing Peter start talking about how jealous of Ainz he was, Albedo and Narble got up to finish cleaning up for Taylar. Once they walked away, Luckrut finally said something he had been thinking for a while now. Maybe we should reconsider the whole no females in the party plan. If we had beauties like those 3 traveling with us, I'm sure I'd reach my potential faster trying to impress them. Luckrut laughs at the end of that. I bet you'd get nothing done, and we would get ambushed regularly. Don't you have the motto to keep pushing until you can worm your way into their heart? Dine says to him. PSSH with women that hot I'd never let anything possibly harm them. You underestimate me, Dine, he replies to him. At least he got the message from Mammon and laid off his companions. After seeing what they did to those ogres and goblins, I'm not sure what they could do to a human, but it wouldn't end well for you, Luckrut. Peter tells the ranger. Luckrut is about to reply to him, but they all hear Nympharia say, "Yeah, they are all very beautiful, aren't they?" With a bitter look on his face. "Nympharia, is something wrong?" Dine asks him. No, it's nothing, Mr. Dine." Nympharia says. "You're not in love with one of them, are you, Nympharia?" Luckrut asks him, hoping someone would take the pressure off him so Mammon wasn't watching him so intently. "Of course I'm not. I don't even know them." Nympharia yells. "Luckrut, you're being ridiculous again. Think before you talk." Peter tells him. Nympharia looked uncomfortable, and he was not sure how to respond to Luckrut. "No, it's not like that. Well, I'm just a little uneasy. Would Mr. Mammon really be that popular? He'd be a hit just going by his strength alone. Plus, he looks pretty wealthy, given the armor he wears and the swords he carries. Not to mention, he is already traveling with the 3 most beautiful women I have ever seen." Luckrut says to Nympharia. "Oh." Nympharia's face was cast in shadow. Peter carefully asked, "Is something the matter?" Nympharia wanted to speak, but cut himself off halfway. The effect repeated itself over and over again, making him look like a fish who was trying to figure out what to say. Peter and the others did not press him. There was no need to force an answer out of him if he did not want to talk about it. Soon, however, Nympharia made up his mind and finally managed to speak. It's because I don't want to let the person I like in Karn Village fall in love with Mr. Mammon." The Swords of Darkness deftly picked up on the hidden message within those words and then smiled warmly. "All right then, young man. Big Brother here will teach you his amazing techniques to land any woman you come across," Luckrut says to Nympharia. Peter slaps Luckrut in the back of the head to get him under control. The Swords of Darkness paid no attention to the painful look on Luckrut's face and began to give Nympharia all the advice they could think of to win over the girl he liked. It finally brought a smile to Nympharea's face, and the group continued talking until it was time to rest. The group set out at daybreak after they broke down the camp and had breakfast. "We'll be at Karn Village soon," Nympharia says to them. The other travelers nodded in response to Nympharia, the only person who had been to Karn Village before. Except for Ainz, Taylar, and Albedo, but they were undercover right now and needed to act as they had never been there. Apart from that, they walked on in silence. Nympharia seemed somewhat put off by that. An air of awkwardness hung between them. Ainz, who was the cause of this situation, hid his guilt underneath his helmet. Ninya kept peeking at him, and it was annoying. However, this was all his fault, so he could not say anything about it. This was the result of what he had said last night. Ninya apologized at breakfast, and Ainz should have accepted the apology on the spot, but for some reason, he could not say a simple thing like, "I forgive you." Though he felt he was being petty, Ainz could not simply let bygones be bygones. Finally, it was Luckrut who spoke up and tried to change the mood. "It seems pretty wide here, so maybe we don't have to stay in a line as we move," he announced, seemingly with some other motive in mind. A glance to the sides revealed stretches of forest around them, so the deliberate mention of being wide and open seemed somewhat suspicious. In addition, the point of being guards was that they could not lower their guard in an open area, so moving in a tight formation like they were doing now was the wisest choice. It was just that they all knew their silent advance and a line was not due to their adventurer's sense of caution. "It's important to stay alert. So, let's get to the village first," Peter says. "Indeed. We need to stay on guard at all times, lest we get attacked," Dine says. Luckrut put on an as-if expression in response to Peter and Dine's statements. "Maybe a dragon might attack us from far away," Ninya says. Luckrut immediately shot back at Ninya. What kind of shitty plot development would that be? Logically speaking, how could such a thing happen, Ninya? You're right, it is impossible. The stories of dragons near Irantal are nothing more than stories. Although they say that in the ancient past, there was a dragon which could shake the heavens and the earth. Nobody's seen any dragons recently. I think there's a colony of frost dragons living along the Azerlija mountain range towards the north, but they're the only dragons that I know that roam the lands. Ninya says. Ainz was intrigued by this development. In Yggdrasil, dragons were the strongest enemies one could encounter. They boasted great physical attack and defense power, boundless stamina, and wielded numerous skills and spells. They were in a totally different class than every other monster there was. I need to be careful if dragons exist. Dragons could live forever in Yggdrasil's backstory, so it wouldn't be a surprise to encounter dragons with mind-boggling powers. Ainz thinks. Do you know the name of that dragon which could shatter the sky and shake the earth? Ainz asks no one in particular. Ninya sees her opening to try and bridge the gap her comment last night made between Ainz and herself. I'm very sorry, Mr. Mammon. I don't know the dragon's name. I could look it up when we get back to the city if you like. Well, she is awfully excited to help me. Probably because of what happened last night. It's better if we settle things this way. I've never been good with people. Ainz thinks to himself. If you could find that out for me, it would be very helpful, Ninya, he says. I will do my best, Mr. Mammon. Ninya replies. The mood seemed to liven up after Ainz and Ninya's exchange, almost as if a dark cloud had been lifted from the adventurers. We are almost to Karn village, everyone. And Farias says. Everyone could hear the cheerfulness in Faria's voice as he spoke, but as soon as the village came into view, he went dead silent. The rest of the party took in the village before them. The swords of darkness looked at the village and wondered why Faria went silent. It looked like a normal village to them other than the sturdy wall that was around it. When they looked closer, they thought maybe his silence was because of the golems. They knew how expensive golems were, and by their count, they could see about 10 of them. They wondered how a village could afford to have a single golem, let alone so many. To Ainz and company, they were surprised at how much progress had been made since their last visit. The village already had a wall completely surrounding it, and they were just fortifying it right now. It was good to see Lupus Regina was taking her task seriously. What's wrong, Faria? Is something the matter? Peter asks him. No, it's fine. I just don't recall seeing a sturdy wall like the one in front of us. And Faria replies. Really? But it looks like an ordinary wall. Actually, I'm surprised you weren't silent because of the golems. How in the world did a frontier village afford one golem, let alone 10 of them? Lukrut says to Nfiria. Karn village has the wise king of the forest, so they've never put up a wall before. I didn't even notice the golems. Where in the world did they come from? I wonder if something happened here. Nfiria says to them. Obviously, Ainz, Taylar, Albedo, and Narbril all knew the answers Nfiria was seeking, but they came here as beings from Nazareth. Right now they were adventurers who had never been here before, and they all stayed silent. Maybe I'm worrying too much, but I grew up in a village and I still remember living there, so there are two things I find suspicious. The first is that the fields haven't been tilled yet even at this time, and the other is that they've already harvested some of the wheat. Ninya says to everyone. They looked in the direction Ninya was pointing, and indeed, part of the wheat had already been taken in. Ninya knew a village would only do that in an emergency. I see. Looks like something happened, Dine says. Ainz turned to the group and offered a suggestion. Nabe can go invisible and scout the village with flying magic, so we know what we are walking into. Nabe casts Fly and Invisible and takes off towards the village. After a few minutes, she appeared right next to Ainz, startling all of the swords of darkness and Nfiria. Everyone in the village seems to be going about their day like normal. I didn't see them being ordered around or controlled by anything. They seem to be working the fields on the other side of the village. Narbrol tells everyone. Guess I was just being paranoid. Ninja says. Well, it should be fine then. Let us move on then. And Firia says. As they get closer to the gate, Luckrut tilts his head as if he sensed something off to the side of the road. What's wrong, Luckrut? And Firia asks him, noticing the look he was giving to the surroundings. I'm not sure. Maybe I was trying to pick up something too hard. I could have sworn I heard something, but I don't hear anything now, Luckrut says. As they drew closer to the village, Peter noticed the wheat here was starting to take over the road. He wondered how a village of farmers could let it get to the point it would almost block the road. I hope they tend their fields properly. This seems like a waste of good food to let it get like this, he says. As soon as he finished, his adventurer instincts seemed to kick in, and he sensed something staring at him from the field. When he scanned the surrounding, he noticed two yellow eyes staring at him from the wheat field just off to his right. Right as he was about to alert everyone, the creature spoke first. Would you mind dropping your weapons, please? As the creature stands up, Peter notices it is a goblin. He didn't know what goblins were doing right near the entrance to this village, but he knew he couldn't make a move without this goblin being able to stab him. It was so close. Since no one said anything, the goblin asked again. I'll ask again. Could you please put your weapons down? The people in the back also, we don't want to have to fill them with arrows, the goblin says to them. When he finishes, 11 more goblins stand up from the wheat with bows drawn, ready to fire at any moment. Would you spare our lives? Peter asks the goblin. Sure, if you surrender, the goblin says to him. Peter was at a loss at what to do. He had never seen goblins so well-versed in tactics and wielding good weapons like a proper company. He didn't know if they should try to fight, run, or try talking to the goblins. These goblins seemed to be much different from the goblins Peter was used to. As the goblins popped up around them, Ainz and Taylar had to hold out a hand to Nabe to stop her from unleashing electrical death on these goblins. After one look, Ainz knew these were the goblins summoned by the horn he had given Henry. He noticed them in the village when they stopped before, and they looked to be the same ones. One goblin, who seemed to be slightly bigger than the others, walked forward to address them. We hope you don't make any sudden moves. We really don't want to fight, especially the 4 of you in the back. So as long as you relax, we will get through this just fine until Elder Sister gets here. Jugum says to the group. Who is this Elder Sister you're talking about? Did she take over Karn Village? Nfiria shouts. Everyone was surprised at the boy's tone while in such a situation. Relax, big guy. She will be here soon, and you can ask her yourself. Jugum replies. Nfiria, calm down a bit. We aren't exactly in a position to be shouting and getting angry. Ninja says to him. Jugum seemed to notice Nfiria's anger and anxiousness and decided to explain the situation to the young man. Elder Sister's village was attacked recently by people dressed up as knights from the Empire. We are just making sure you have no ill intentions for this village. She will be here shortly to verify you aren't a threat to the village. The village was attacked. Nfiria says. I hope Henry is all right, he thinks to himself. Ah, here is Elder Sister now. Jugum says. As Nfiria looks to where the goblin's eyes are, he sees a girl being escorted by more goblins. His eyes went wide, and he shouted her name when she came into view. Henry. Nfiria? Is that you? Henry says.
That's it for today. Remember to show your support to the creator of this story if you enjoyed it. If you would like more parts of the story to be uploaded, leave a comment and subscribe to get notified when the story continues. Bye-bye for now, and I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your day.